As I mentioned, welcome everyone. First of all, great that you're here, even though I think the link had to find its way to you and wasn't shared before. So I'm glad that you made it anyways. As mentioned before, this is going to be a recording. After the session, you can watch it on the YouTube channel, and there's going to be a link in the meetup as well, so you have access to the recordings afterwards. And please be advised that if you do not consent to being recorded, just feel free to drop off and watch the recording later. As to myself, I'm hosting this session today, usually together with Augustine, who most of you know. I assume I'm a colleague of Augustine and also part of the Advanced Analytics group. And yes, welcome you. You can, of course, connect with me and Augustine via our LinkedIn profiles that you can see here. For the upcoming events on the 15th of July, we have a couple of really interesting upcoming events. Is Nikola Ilic, and I think he's already connected to this one as well, with the topic of how to fit 200 million rows in less than 1 gigabyte. 22nd of July, James Dales, with pushing the boundaries of mapping and Power BI, and September, and the date is going to be posted soon, is Matthew Roche with building a data culture. With this, I'll just hand over to our presenter today, Wolfgang Strasser, talking about the Azure Synapse for Power BI developers. And I hope you enjoy the sessions. Q&A is going to be after the session. So yes, please just continue, and I hope you enjoy this session.
Thank you, Christian, and welcome to this user group meeting about Azure Synapse Analytics and Power BI. And I added the subtitle not only for the Power BI developer, because I would like to introduce you to that new, we can talk about that new kid in town, Azure Synapse Analytics, what it is, why I think that it can be a good fit for your analytics platform and your analytics approach, and how Power BI is in some parts similar and in some parts different to Synapse Analytics. And with that, I would like to start the journey into the Synapse universe. My name is Wolfgang. I live and work in Austria. I like to work with data. I'm working as a consultant. If you want to connect afterwards, my contact details are over there. Just send me an email, ping me on Twitter. I've got a blog. I've written some books about Power BI, and I'm a member of the Azure Data Community Board. So community is a thing for myself. And if you have any questions, just contact me afterwards. And for today's session, if you think that question you have in mind is really fitting to that part I'm just talking about, just interrupt myself, just raise the hand in Teams or unmute yourself. If it can wait until the end, I will answer it at the end. So it's up to you how you want to handle the questions. With that, let's start into the field of data. Data is important. Data is almost everywhere because all of our businesses are getting into the data business area. It's not only those huge companies that have a data warehouse that are working on analytics, that are somehow dealing with reporting. It's also those small businesses that get more and more into the data-driven companies field. And I think you've already heard that data is the new oil slogan and whatever. it's not a new thing. It was, well, born in 2016, 15 years ago. So it's not that kind of new stuff that we are dealing with the data analytics and the data business. And even when we talk about data, we can get more specific and more specific about the need of data in enterprises, because some clever people talked about data like water. Data like water needs to be accessible, but data and water needs to be cleaned in order to survive. So data, if it's just data, it's well. But if you have clean data and if you have data in your company that you can really focus and work with, well, it's good. And you get better as a company if you have good data to work on. And in the last years, well, I'm in the data business since the beginning of the 2000s, and I've built data warehouses. I've worked with the business analytics side of that story. So data warehousing, reporting, standard reporting, Power BI, everything around that was my main focus a few years ago. And then it became more apparent that there is another stream of working with data, which is the data science world. And those two worlds, well, they are not separated. In the past, there was a huge stream of we do business analytics or we do data science. But I think that time and everything changed, because when we are talking about those two different areas, the data warehouse, I already mentioned it. It's the technology for business analytics. On the other side, for data science, one of the main technologies where data is stored, where data can be read and processed from, is the data lake. And those two different technology streams, well, they seem to be separated and they seem to be completely different. But what I see and what we are trying to solve in our projects, it's getting those worlds together. So it's not a separation of data science and business analytics. It's a better together story. And that is the part where Synapse Analytics at the end comes into play, because Synapse Analytics, the main focus is to give you an umbrella, to give you a technology umbrella about different kinds of data, about different structures, different volumes of data, and solve two different worlds, the business analytics and the data science world. But one of those main problems we see at our customer projects, data is separated. We've got different data islands in the companies we are working with. We've got one ERP island, we've got a CRM island, and maybe we've got some sort of web shop island. And maybe there's a fourth island, which is the IoT data, the production data island. So completely separated data worlds. And what we need to solve in the past, we said, okay, let's build a data warehouse focused on ERP, maybe integrated with CRM and maybe some other data. But now all those islands need to be connected. We need to build bridges between those data islands, because it's getting more and more important to combine your production, your IoT data, with information out of your ERP system, maybe another system, the CRM system, and another system, and another system, so that you get the overview about your data estate in your company. To have the one and to the other view bridge those two worlds together. But when dealing with different systems, different technologies, and different approaches that we want to analyze, well, we've got many different options. When dealing with data and talking about data, in the past, we had structured data. We had tables coming from source systems that were extracted, that were somehow modified into a more analytic related and focused data model. But now we've got semi or unstructured data. Data is not fetched and read in batches, but coming via streams. So we have streaming data. We have data that is generated in on-premises environments, and we have data that is generated and coming from cloud environments. We have IoT that is somehow dependent on edge systems, and we have all those different parts when talking about data. We even have big data, whatever big data is, and it's the same with the technologies when we want to work with data, because data and technologies, they can be completely different. And the technologies to work with data and to analyze data, there were data warehouses, there are data warehouses, there is a data lake, there is a commercial product you can use, and there is an open source product you can use to analyze your data. There are databases, there are spreadsheets, there are AI systems and services, and so on and so forth. So completely different approaches, but they are needed because they all solve and work best for solving those different analytic approaches. And who is that person that has to deal with it? Well, and that person maybe is you, maybe it's me, maybe it's another part of our team, it's a team in our company. And this group of people, well, they are dealing with different skills. And we have different skills for data preparation. For my side, well, I'm mainly coming from the SQL side. So I'm trying to solve data preparation, data analytics with SQL, but we've got a data science team in our company, and this team, well, they prefer to work with Python, with R, with completely different languages and technologies. So completely different skills to solve the problem. And what we now have is completely different data structures, technologies to work with, and people to solve that problems. So if we think about that, wouldn't it be nice if we have that good old times again, that good old data warehouse? And the question is it still relevant? Can we still build our analytics platform on the good old data warehouse? Well, it's a little bit more complex because all those different options I talked about, we have to bring those options together. And the big question is, oh my God, how should I do and start with analytics? And there are many questions. Either go left path or the right path, turn around, jump, sit down, whatever. Many different options. And one of those starting questions is, should we go on premises or stay on premises? Or should we move and think about a cloud-based analytics environment? And well, today I'm going to talk about the cloud, because what I see and really like about the Azure data platform is there's a huge list of services. There's a huge variety of services for really picking the best of breed technology to solve your data problem. It starts with the approach how to store data, how to analyze data, and at the end, how to visualize the data. So I'm talking about the cloud environment. And one of those architecture examples from Microsoft was one of that picture you see on that slide. So a modern data warehouse approach. And that is an architecture a few years ago, before the birth of Azure Synapse Analytics. And what are the steps that are really needed in order to get from your data on the left side to visualization on the right side with Power BI? What do you need? Well, it's data integration. So you need a tool to integrate data from your sources. Your sources can be on premises, cloud, IoT data, software as a service, whatever kind of source. And Microsoft, well, proposed Azure Data Factory, data orchestration, data preparation, and data integration service in the cloud to get the data from the source systems and to store it in a data store. And the proposed architecture piece is the Azure Data Lake storage. And the question is, why should I need a data lake? Everybody talks about data lake, and I thought data lakes are for data science only. But no, they are not for data science only. What data lake storage brings to you is a completely and very, very cheap but powerful data storage. And what is the part of the data storage, the data lake? There's a question, Kirill, are you? Oh yes, Kirill, I think I'm 7, 8, 9 slides later. So questions to the other ones. Do you see the data warehouse in the cloud slide?
Yes, I can see it.
Oh,
okay.
Let me get out and come back in. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe rejoin.
Okay.
To solve that one. Yeah, but good to mention because sometimes those internet technologies doesn't work that way. Okay, so back to the data lake storage. Why a data lake storage? In that proposed architecture, the data lake storage is responsible for getting an archive of your data into the play, because every time you are importing data, ingesting data from a data source, the data lake storage is here to store that piece of data and to have it in an archive. And with that archive, we can solve those or serve those two different approaches, the big data analytics side and the data warehousing side. So with that architecture, it's not a normal data warehouse, not only serving the structured, the relational part of the story, but also serving the big data world. And how does it work? Well, there is a service called Azure Databricks. It's Apache Spark, it's cluster-based data analytics, and it's a way to work with your data using different languages and using notebooks. I'm gonna show you notebooks if you haven't heard and seen notebooks in actions, but notebooks, it's a mixture of code, results, and documentation. And with that approach, you can write your code cells. And code cells can have different languages assigned. So you can start writing the first cell using Python, for example. And in the next cell, you are using the results from your first cell and writing your code using SQL or R and other languages. So with the Azure Databricks, and there are other services out there that can solve that big data analytics approach. But with Azure Databricks, you build your notebooks to analyze, to prepare your data, and even put some AI and machine learning into that play. And that arrow is twofold. So we read the data, Azure Databricks reads the data from the initial storage, but also writes back the results of your analysis to the storage. And now the relational part, the data warehousing part comes into play. And with the Azure SQL Data Warehouse, it was called that way at that time. Now it's called Azure Synapse Analytics Dedicated Pool. Quite a long name, but it's a data warehousing service in the cloud. And it's a very powerful data warehousing service in the cloud because it's not a normal SQL server, it's a cluster. It's a cluster of 60 databases behind the scenes, having multiple compute nodes and having many powerful options to store huge amounts of data. So Azure SQL Data Warehouse to solve the data warehousing side of that story. And again, if there is the need, we can write back the data to the data lake. And now to the visualization part, Power BI. In that part, it's Power BI that has the data model inside, plus the visualizations, the reports. And Power BI can read from the data warehousing part, and there's one arrow missing. It can also read from the data lake. So the modern data warehouse And all those services we see here, Azure Data Factory, Databricks, SQL Data Warehouse, those are separated services in the Azure universe. They work perfect for solving the problems. And there was one thing that there were separated services. And what Microsoft said, hey, well, maybe we could think about a service that could combine everything I talked about, the data ingestion, the big data preparation, the data warehousing. And they introduced Azure Synapse Analytics, which is the thing I'm going to talk about today in detail. So what is in there in that Azure Synapse Analytics box? Well, the sources and Power BI and other services on the right side. But what we also have is the central data lake storage. So again, the similar idea, we have an Azure data lake storage as, if we compare it to a data warehousing, the staging, the data storage. And we've got a thing and part of that story that does the data integration. So data ingestion into the data lake storage we've got here. And now we need to analyze, prepare the data, clean the data, data quality work, and so on and so forth. And there are two different parts and two different flavors of analytics runtimes. One is the SQL-based analytic runtimes, and the other one is Spark-based analytics runtimes. So Spark-based, I already mentioned Spark at the Azure Databricks icon on the previous slide. So Apache Spark is built into Synapse Analytics, cluster-based, big data analytics, machine learning, notebook-based development, everything in there. So if you or your team is coming from the data science, from Python and so on and so forth, you can just fire up a Spark cluster and work on that side. On the other side, SQL-based, there are two different flavors in the SQL world in Synapse Analytics. One is called dedicated SQL pool and the other one is serverless pool. The dedicated SQL pool, it's the Azure SQL Data Warehouse we've seen on the previous slide. It's the cluster you are provisioning. It's the cluster that has the data separated and distributed in the background. It's the cluster that has multiple compute nodes. So very powerful data analytics on that side. And the serverless pool, well, serverless, it's there when you need it and it just shuts down when you don't need it. And there are different kinds of works you can solve with either the serverless or the dedicated pool. And what is also there, somebody needs to manage everything in there. You have to configure and create Sql pools. You have to configure Spark clusters. You have to configure security. And that was one part of the story why Microsoft said, we should put one umbrella over those different services that are there, because Azure Data Factory, Databricks, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, they had different security approaches. And now it's Azure Active Directory. And whenever there's something running and something processing in Synapse, you are able to do some monitoring. And with the Azure Synapse Studio, that's the development environment to work with your data in Synapse Analytics. So Synapse Studio is the one-stop development environment to work with data integration, to prepare SQL statements, work with notebooks, monitor and manage security, for example. So Synapse Studio is the one-stop shop. And now, I can imagine that some of you just sit there and, oh my God, that are many names, different analytic runtimes, different ways of working with data, and I have really no clue how that could help and how that relates to Power BI. And what we will see now in the demo, we will see how data comes and can come into Synapse with the use of Synapse pipelines. So data loading, data preparation. And if we compare it to the Power BI stuff, well, That is the part where Power Query, where we are connecting to external data sources, where we are transforming data using Power Query, and Synapse Pipelines is a similar approach to connect to external sources, to prepare the data and to load the data into the Synapse environment. And for the data preparation, again, and in addition, we've got the Sql Pools and the Spark-based pools. So that is part of the upcoming demo. I'm gonna share the slides afterwards. If there is a, I don't know if there's a homepage available, or if you want to fetch the slides, my contact details will be on the last slide, so I can send them to you. And what is really, really important, it's not only that on that slide, it's the gray box we've got here. It's not only Synapse as it is, and that's it. There is the concept of connected services, linked services. And with that approach, Synapse can easily connect to other services in the data platform, in the Azure data platform, and use data coming and maybe stored in other data lake storages, in other databases, or use Azure machine learning to work with your data. And even Power BI is integrated because we need to visualize the data we've prepared using Synapse. And before I'm gonna start the demo, there is one relation to the name of the Synapse Analytics. And I think they had a clever move in the marketing department when they announced and found the name Synapse Analytics. And when we deal and talk about synapses in our brains, well, if those brain cells are connecting together, we learn. And if we just relate it to our data islands in our company, if we connect those different data islands, we learn, we get better, and we get a better understanding of our company. So Synapse Analytics lets us get better if and when we connect the different data islands. And with that, it's demo time. And before demo time, it's question time. Are there any questions now that I can hopefully answer at the moment? The chat is quiet, so I assume there are no questions now, but you are still there, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. So it's always that thing with that virtual sessions. You don't know if they are having dinner or whatever. So Synapse Analytics. What needs to be done in order to get a new Synapse workspace? So the white box in your analytics environment. Well, just start here, Synapse Analytics, and in the Azure portal, you can create a new Synapse workspace. And with that, with the creation of a Synapse workspace, what you create is the white box, plus what you need is one of the data lake storages over here. So we need one data lake storage in here to store metadata, and that one is required. That one is called the primary data lake storage, and that one is needed for your Synapse workspace. Without that primary data lake storage, you don't get the workspace. And that's it. That's the main question. There are security related questions, network related questions, but in the basic, it's checking out the name, creating a new workspace, and creating a new data lake storage. And what is there? Yeah, it's the Synapse Studio. It's the Synapse Studio that is your development environment. And in the Azure portal itself, it's not that much. There are some security related roles you can assign. And there is that section of analytic pools. And it's also at the overview here. And if I zoom in a little bit, we've got the section of Sql Pools and Apache Spark Pools. And when you create a new workspace, there is no dedicated or Apache Spark pool there. So it's just one pool that is created by default. It's the serverless Sql pool. The other ones I've created afterwards. So I've created 2 Sql dedicated pools, those data warehousing pools, and I've created and configured 2 Apache Spark pools. And what is really nice, it's the same with all those Azure services. We can configure and scale those services to solve our performance requirements. So there are different performance levels for the dedicated pools, and there are different performance levels for the Apache Spark based pools. So medium, small sized ones. And here we've got those data warehousing units levels. So starting with 100 and going up to somehow 3,000, whatever. I'm not really sure how it goes up, because it gets more and more expensive the more you scale it. But that is the part where the compute and the storage layer comes in. And if we start the Synapse Studio, that is the Synapse Studio. And at the start screen, we've got the menu on the left side. So we've got the menu here on the left side. We've got the data hub, a develop hub, integration hub, monitoring and manage. And we've got some sort of buttons over here. We can start to ingest data. We can go over there to explore and analyze the data. And last but not least, to visualize the data. But if you are new with Azure Synapse Analytics, the Learn button is a recommendation, a big recommendation, because behind that button, we're gonna go to the Knowledge Center. And the Knowledge Center, it's links to the documentation, but that is nice, but there are samples you can start with immediately. So if you want to learn about Spark-based data analytics, if you want to query your data with SQL or work with different ways of SQL, just go over here. And there's a huge gallery of data sets and a huge gallery of pre-configured notebooks where you can have a look at Scala examples, Spark.NET C#, Spark SQL, and analyze data using Spark-based notebooks or SQL scripts. And for the data ingestion, there are templates, a huge list of templates there. So if you want to work with slowly changing dimensions, you don't have to start from the beginning again, just use a template over there. So Knowledge Center, it's very good if you want to learn Synapse Analytics. But now let's see how we can get data into our Synapse Analytics environment. And that one can be solved in the Integration Hub, because in the Integration Hub, we have, in my demo environment, I've already created some data preparation pipelines. And those data preparation pipelines, they are, if you have seen Azure Data Factory before, it's 90–95% of the same code. So it's not that Microsoft reinvented the wheel for Synapse Analytics. It took those services that worked well, but put it into one single place, the Synapse workspace. So Synapse pipelines, they are called, and what you can choose from is a long list of different activities. For example, you can call stored procedures, you can connect to source systems and copy data. And here is the thing where those linked services come into play, because with that linked services, let's go over here and have a look at the linked services list. With the linked services, we can connect to outside systems, and we can connect to outside systems to A, get data from, to B, write data to, or 3, use those external services to, for example, do some machine learning there, to use Azure Machine Learning Model or Azure Cognitive Services. So linked services, those are the, if we compare it with Power BI, those connectors to the outside. And what you can do is we can have a look at data lake storage, and we can choose from already existing ones in our subscription. And I'm gonna take that one to conference guide dev and to the test connection. And with that, we get the connection information to the outside. But what is missing for having data integration, the data copying, let's go back to the pipeline. The copy task needs a source data set, and the source data set itself is if we've configured a linked service to a database. The source data set, it's the reference to a table, to a view, for example, that we get the correct and specific database object having a schema and so on. For a linked service that is a data lake, well, a data set can be a specific file, but it can also be a folder and a folder structure, including all those files that are in there. And it's the same for the destination of our copy. Again, create a destination dataset, and every dataset in Synapse pipelines is based on a linked service. And in that example, we are copying data from the source dataset from a SharePoint list into a data lake, into a Parquet file in the data lake. Afterwards, we are performing a lookup activity. We are getting the lists of files in there, and then we have got a loop, and we are processing the files one by one and even in parallel. So data integration and data ingestion, it's based on Azure Data Factory Synapse pipelines. So that is the part where we can have a look at or compare it to Power Query on the other side. Connect to data sources and load the data into our analytics. What is also there, and that one is hidden in the development environment, that one is called data flows. That one sounds interesting because with the Synapse pipelines as we have here, there is more the data transport and the data loading, but it's not that big part of data transformation in there. For the data transformation, you can use, for example, the data flows approach. And data flows are a graphical, let's put another step into your data transformation pipeline in their approach. So we are reading data from a SQL database. We are selecting and renaming some columns over there. There is a filter based on one column. So we get all those movies that are that appeared after 1950. We are loading some other data, we are ranking, so there is some calculation available and so on. And at the end, well, data is written to a destination. And again, it's data sets, and data sets, as I said, based on a linked service. So for the Power Query side from Power BI, we've got the Synapse pipelines to load the data somewhere, and we've got the mapping data flows here that can be used to work with the data and transform the data. And there is one technology that is already there in the Azure Data Factory, but it's not there in Synapse. Let's move to that one over here. They are called wrangling data flows, but now they are called Power Query. And within Data Factory, they are already integrated. So there is a Power Query data preparation within the Azure Data Factory user interface, which is not included in Synapse pipelines as of today, but I really, really hope that we will see that kind of data preparation in Synapse again. So data ingestion, it's included, you don't have to switch tools. And now what is in there in our environment? And if we go to the data tab, the data hub, we see two different tabs over here. It's the workspace and it's the linked part. And In the workspace, we've got the list of databases that are contained within that Synapse Analytics workspace. And if we have a closer look here, we see that there are 3 different icons. So we've got the red, the green, and let's switch to blue, and the blue icons. The red ones, those are the dedicated SQL. The green ones, let's go over here, those are databases that are based on the SQL Serverless Pools. And the blue ones, the last ones in the list, so I'm gonna switch to that one, those are Spark-based databases. There's one browser for all those different kinds of databases. And what we can do is we can open, for example, the SQL DB1, and we can have a look, and there is data in there. And it's a similar user interface like Management Studio and so on. And we can have a look at the, for example, fact sales table and just run the query. And I've chosen that one, which is empty, but start again and query the database table. It's select, it's even including, it should include, yeah, it includes IntelliSense. So you have SQL-based development within Synapse Studio. And you've got the list of results in there. You can even change the to a chart over there. You can configure your chart and do some, well, very nice and easy way of having a look at the data that is in your SQL dedicated pool. There is also that part of the serverless databases. And if we compare it, we've got a little difference over here, because in the dedicated pool, we've got tables and there is no table section for the serverless part. So easy and important to remember, dedicated pools can store data on their own. As of today, serverless pools are not able to store data. They can serve as a logical layer over your data lake, which I will show you in a minute. And they are there to do data exploration and not able to store data directly. So that is a huge difference between dedicated and serverless pools. And the last, well, it's the same here. We've got tables over there for the Spark pool, and that one is empty because I haven't started my Spark pool at the background, because those databases need to be powered by the Spark in the background. So data exploration is easy for the database side, but what about the linked services section? And what we see here is the list of integration datasets. And that is the list of all those datasets we created for Synapse pipelines to connect to the outside. So if I open a dataset which is Azure SQL database and contains movies, there's the reference to the SQL server. We've got the information of a schema. You can import that. We can just move over there and have some look at the settings and properties of the dataset. But what is really nice, there is a linked service to a data lake storage, and that one is the primary data lake storage. So it's already mentioned here. It's our primary storage, and what we can do is we can have a look at the data lake, and we can have a look what is in our data lake. So we've got a graphical browser, and we can go there and have a look at some content in the data lake. So if you haven't worked with a data lake, just think about it's a file storage, a cheap file storage, but very powerful file storage somewhere in the cloud. And in our case, I've got one file in there, which is the population of my home country, my home region, Upper Austria. And we've got those population over time for the different cities in there. So I've just selected the context menu preview. But now we can decide either go the Spark way, so let's go the direction of Spark, or go to the SQL side. So if I just select that one, go into the direction of Spark, a new notebook is generated. And that is the first thing you see in a notebook. We've got those cells. And the first one is a code cell. And we can add either a code cell or a markdown cell. And markdown cells, well, they are for the documentation, user group. And we can mix and match code cells, and we can add some documentation in there. What we can also do is you define the default language for your notebook, but you can also change it in the different code cells. So if we go here, and they are called magic comments. So percentage, and then you add the language you want to choose, and then you are working with SQL in that code cell. And if you add another code cell, you can switch back to Scala, to C#, and whatever. So many languages available. What is needed? Well, a notebook needs to be run on a Spark pool. So we need some compute engine, and that one is different to Power BI. In Power BI, you don't need to configure a cluster to do the data preparation in the background. In Synapse, well, you need a dedicated pool or a Spark pool that is assigned to your processing actions. So that is different between Power BI and Spark, Synapse, sorry. So notebooks, one part of the story. But if we go the direction of SQL, we can go into the Sql Editor, and now that one is interesting because we are working with a file in the data lake, but there is some sort of select statement over here, and let's start that one, and let's see what we get back. And what it does, Synapse uses the built-in the serverless pool to connect to your data lake, read the content of the CSV file over there, and displays the data. And what we see is, well, it's text in there, and there's some more information needed because Synapse needs to know how to separate the different columns. So add the option field terminator. And what is also needed, maybe I would like to skip the first row because the first row contains some sort of not that kind of usable column header. So I'm going to say first data row is row number 2. And what it does, it uses the open row set command to connect to your data lake, uses the CSV parser in the newest version, in the version 2, and we are adding some parameters in there. And what you can also do is we can add some sort of structure with the with clause. For example, we can define column 1, it's the state code, we've got the city code, we've got the city name, and so on, and just run that one. And we get back good named columns, plus we've changed the data type. So the year, it's an integer, the population is an integer. And what we can do is we can filter. So just add the name of my hometown, execute that one. Oh, just scroll down. Oh my God. So, and run it again. So add a filter to the hometown, and we see we've got the population during the last years, and just switch to the chart in here. So there, I won't mention the similarities between Power BI reporting and that chart because it's, let's call it a little bit different. And it's a way to have the data displayed, and it's not ordered correctly. So I'm gonna add order by year to that column or to that statement. Oh my God, and it loses the definition. So configure that one again. And what we see, yeah, it's the population in the last year, starting with 1869 until the year 2019. And there is also the next level of exploring your data in the data lake, because we can change the path that OpenRosette reads from the specific file to the content of a folder, for example, because there is one file that contains the population data of 2020. So if I add a wildcard over here, run that one, and I'm gonna move back to that list, and it's ordered, and we've got the population data of 2020 also included in my data set. And now we can use that serverless pool to provide some sort of logical layer on your data lake, for example. And what we can do is we can create a database, if I can type it correctly, and we call it Stuttgart database. Create database. Take some seconds. I'm gonna go refresh over here. Gonna refresh over here. We've got the Stuttgart database, and that one is empty. So I'm gonna change my editor using the context of the Stuttgart database. And what we can do is we can create a view, which is the population view, and just remove the top 100 over here, create that one. Oh my God. Okay. I should have changed the collation to solve that one, but a good TV chef would say, hey, I've prepared something because, oh, there's a population from lake view in another database. So we can go over here, have a look over there, and it's the same syntax provided in there, run it there, and we get the data, the population data from Upper Austria using the view in the built-in approach. And now we've seen the data integration. We've seen the data preparation using Synapse pipelines, using the mapping data flows. We've seen data preparation using Spark. We've seen data preparation using SQL. We've seen how the serverless pool just looks like a database, and the dedicated pool looks like a database. And what is missing from that overview page, if I go back to that, we see the data here, the visualization. So how do we get data from the Synapse environment into Power BI? And well, the easiest way would be to go to the Azure portal, and you get a connection string, the database server, the name of the serverless endpoint and the dedicated endpoint. So what you could do is just copy that one, connect using Power BI Desktop to that database server and get the data. But that's not nice, because what I would like to do is I would like to use the integration, a linked service to Power BI. And there's a way of linking Power BI workspaces into and to your Synapse Analytics environment. So create a new linked service to Power BI. And as of, I think it was beginning of June, we are now able to create 2 or more workspace connections. In the beginning, we were only able to create 1 connection, so only one could be created. Only one could be fetched over here, but now I can select another one and create another connected service. And where do we find that Power BI integration? Let's see, it's not in the integration thing, because there is the Synapse pipelines. In the data thing, it's not there. No, it's in the development hub, because we are developing data models and data reports based on Power BI. So here's the Power BI section, Those two linked services are over here. And if I open that one, we can have a look at the data sets that are in that Power BI workspace. And really, really important, it's not Power BI running in Synapse, it's Synapse connected to an existing Power BI workspace. So on the other side, it's Power BI here. Oh, I don't want to go to the blog. I'm gonna just log into my Power BI environment and move to the workspace. It's the same list of data sets you see in Power BI. It's the same list in Synapse here. And what you can do is, I don't want to move browser tabs and log into Power BI. I would like to start the development of a new Power BI dataset in Synapse. And if the portal is my friend, we should get the list of databases. We should get the list of dedicated pools. We should get the list of serverless pools. And just imagine that list is there. We select the, it's here. We select the, no, that one is not working. We select that database. And what we get is a Power BI data source file. So a PBIDS file. And when we open that, we have to switch for one time the user interface. We have to switch to Power BI Desktop because data modeling is only available in Power BI Desktop. So the Power BI data source file, it's opened. It contains the connection string to the database. And what we get if I'm logged in using the right server, the right user, I get the reference to that view in the data lake, and I can use the load or transform. To be clear, now I'm going to go to the transform because that is the way you should work and not just use the load button. Transform data, even if we are not changing the data structure, transform data is your friend and not that yellow button over there that is called load. And we are switching to direct query. So just to recap, we've got files in our data lake. We've got serverless view that is based on the files in the data lake, creating a logical layer on the data lake. And we are using that as a source for our Power BI reports. So no data preparation. Going back to that environment, Power BI Desktop, the field list should load on that side. And what we can do is we're gonna add the year, but the year on the axis and the population for the values, and add some filter for the city name over here. So we can filter to the different information pieces and no bar charts, it's line charts. So what we created now, it's direct query on the data lake. So bridging the file-based data storage by using a logical layer in between. And what we can do now is we can publish that one, that data model, and let's call it the Stuttgart population data. And we publish that one to that synced data set. No, sorry, synced workspace in Power BI. Publish that one. Got it. Go over here, close and refresh. And oh my God, it's not here. It's those tiny little things using completely different tenants. So I need to publish that one to the right tenant. And if you have Synapse integration workspace in one and the other, it's not the best way of having that one. And it's multi-factor authentication. Just a second. Publish that one. Synapse integration demo workspace. got it moved back here, refresh, and we've got that data set in here. So we can create a new report within Synapse. So we don't have to switch the environment. So we could create that one. And there's one thing you as a Power BI developer, unfortunately, we have to switch the user interface one time, because after the publish, we need to go to the Power BI environment. We've got the, where is it? The Stuttgart population data. We need to go to the settings somewhere, if I can scroll in here. And we need to not really edit that one because we are using SSO, but we need to configure the data source once. That one isn't done by Synapse. So if we go back and refresh, the data source is here. We can add the state code, we can add the years and create a new report, but we've already created a report, so we can go over here and open that created report we've worked with in Power BI Desktop. So that is the overall story from getting data into your Synapse environment, storing the data in the data lake, creating a logical layer in my demo in the serverless pool. But also what you can do is you can load the data in a dedicated pool, do some data preparation in there using stored procedures, for example, if you know it. If you want to go more into the direction of having a graphical data preparation, mapping data flows is your friend. And at the end, you can move to Power BI and directly connect your Power BI datasets to data in your Synapse Analytics workspace. And with that, well, that was the demo, the short walkthrough into the Synapse Analytics world. And if we compare it, because today's session was named not only for the Power BI developer, but if we compare those steps that are required for Power BI development, well, we need data sources. In Power BI, we've got that connectors, the huge list of connectors, file-based databases, whatever. In Synapse, with the integration pipelines, we've got those linked services. We can create linked services to databases, to cloud, even on-premises data sources. And there's also a gateway involved. In Power BI, it's called the on-premises, the data gateway. For Synapse pipelines, the data factory, it's called the self-hosted integration runtime, but the concept is the same. Data preparation, data integration, data transformation, Power Query on the Power BI side. For Synapse pipelines to load the data, data preparation using mapping data flows, maybe sometime in the future with the Power Query integration, and Spark data preparation, SQL data preparation, and putting the data into a data storage. In Power BI, if you're using import mode, data is imported into Power BI. With Synapse, we've got the data lake storage. We've got the options of storing data in dedicated pools. We've got the option of, well, simulating some storage using the serverless layer over our data lake. And for the data modeling, well, it's Power BI as of today, because there is no semantic modeling in Synapse available. You have to switch to Power BI, but Power BI is integrated. Well, it's almost integrated. You have Power BI Desktop, but you have the list of your workspaces, you've got the list of your data sets, and you can create and modify reports in there. So data visualization, Power BI, and or Power BI integrated in Synapse Analytics. And to recap, Synapse Studio is the development environment. Explore your data, create data integration pipelines, notebooks, and so on and so forth. Synapse Studio is the main development environment. What is also possible, connect to the dedicated or serverless pool using SQL Server Management Studio or Azure Data Studio. So it's not that kind of very closed system, so you can connect to your data storage. Different flavors of SQL pools, the dedicated pools and the serverless pool, different ways of, well, let's say, proposed usage from Microsoft data exploration for the serverless pool, because we can't store data in there, and the data warehousing approach using the dedicated pools on the other side. Spark-based data analytics using notebooks. Completely cool approach. I really like notebooks, and I'm switching to even notebooks for SQL development on premises, because Azure Data Studio, for example, allows me to create notebooks. And what is really nice, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it, it's not only code and documentation, it's also the results. So in a notebook, you are able to store the results of your queries, and you can have a look afterwards without rerunning all those statements in there. Different languages, and you need a Spark cluster to work with it. Data preparation, Synapse pipelines, mapping data flows for the graphical data preparation. And sometimes in the future, I hope that wrangling data flows, Power Query that is already there in Azure Data Factory will come into the Synapse data preparation. So on that, beginning with that day, there's no excuse for you to don't start within data preparation in Synapse. And Power BI and Synapse Analytics directly integrated. You can open your reports, you can create your reports, and you can even start your data modeling by downloading the Power BI data source file. And with that, I'm at the end of my journey and our journey through the Synapse Analytics universe. And I hope you enjoyed what you've seen. I hope that there were some new things. I hope that I could give some sort of idea what are similarities, what are differences between Power BI, and what technologies and what pieces well, are comparable and solving the same things either in Power BI or Synapse on the other side. And there are two more things at the end. There are plans to include some sort of automatic performance accelerator, because imagine you've got Power BI reports and they are sending queries to your dedicated pool. And sometimes it would be nice to have some sort of database optimizer, performance analyzer that has a look at the statements that are sent to the dedicated pool and maybe add some indexes and so on. And with the performance accelerator for Synapse Analytics, and especially Power BI and Synapse Analytics in combination, in the background, there is a process that creates a thing that is called materialized view. And a materialized view is the result of that statement, of that select statement you can see here, stored separately in the dedicated pool and updated automatically if there are updates, for example, in the fact sales or in the dim product table. So every time Power BI connects to your database, it doesn't need to go through all the fact sales rows, joining them to the product. It just goes to the already prepared table, which is just there and managed by Synapse. And Synapse can be a big part of your data estate and your analytics, but there is more, because Synapse is just another piece and another island in your data estate of your company. And if you want to have a more overview and a better overview, you can have a look at the Azure Purview service, which is a data governance or a data catalog service in the cloud. And that one allows you to classify data in databases, as you can see in the left part, but also allows you to analyze Power BI environments and have a look at the data lineage from a SQL into a data set, into a report, into a dashboard. So more is coming into that field, and with Azure Purview, you get to the next level to analyze and to have a complete overview about your data estate in your company. And with that, I'm at the end of the session. If you have any questions now, just unmute yourself, put them into the chat. Otherwise, if there are any questions afterwards, my contact details are there. I would be happy if you join the conversation on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, maybe read a blog on my blog site. And with that, thanks for joining in, and I hope that you will have a look at Azure Synapse Analytics in the future.
Thanks a lot. Are there any questions? Okay, I take this. Yeah, I can see there's just a thank you. Yeah, and I take it there are no questions so far. So I will also say thank you a lot, and thanks for the great presentation. We're looking forward to the next meetups, and yeah, everybody have a nice rest of the day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me, and enjoy data analytics using Synapse and Power BI. Bye, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.